I want to talk about the dreaded C word that everybody seems to get offended by. No, not that one. This one. Carbs. Carbohydrates. Everybody seems scared of them these days. Doing low carb or no carb diets. I'm going to explain why these are really important to incorporate into your daily nutrition, guys. Carbohydrates are one of the macronutrients that are vital to the human body. We use carbohydrates mainly for energy. We've talked a lot about cells in the body before. All of the cells in the body have little engines in them that we call mitochondria, and they use carbohydrates to produce energy in the body. That's why it's so important. So when we talk about carbs, you'll usually hear two terms: simple sugar and complex carbohydrate. What is the difference between those two things? Well, simple sugars, if we break them down and think again, like protein, about little blocks, if we break them down to an atomic level, simple sugars look like this. The simple sugars are really good if we need a quick hit of energy, guys. So things like energy gels, Mars bars, things like that contain lots of glucose, which is a simple sugar. It gets taken up into the bloodstream really quickly and used by the body. Where we run into problems is where people keep eating too many of those simple sugars on a consistent basis. Complex carbohydrates come in chains that link together in long chains. So in order for the body to effectively use those carbohydrates and absorb them into the bloodstream, into the cells and produce energy, we need enzymes to start breaking those chains down, guys. So we'll have enzymes. There's an enzyme. Comes into here and starts cutting that chain and breaking the chain to break them down into those simple sugars. So when we talk about complex carbohydrates, you'll hear the term slow release, and that's exactly what it means. This is why these are much better source of carbohydrates, because it takes longer for the body to break them down. By the time the enzymes have chopped all those branches up, and for the body to use those carbohydrates. So as discussed, the body needs carbohydrates to produce energy, guys. That's where we get our main source of energy on a daily basis. But there's a lot of fear around carbohydrates at the minute with diets like the Atkins ketogenic diet. There's so much out there on social media about these diets and cutting out carbs that I think people are starting to become afraid to eat carbohydrates. That shouldn't be the case. We need to consume carbohydrates, but just in the right way and the right type of carbohydrates, guys. Now, the problem with some of these diets is the fact that people will cut out the carbs completely, but they'll also cut out the fats. Fat is another essential macronutrient to the body, and if you're cutting both out, it's going to be really detrimental to your results. If you're going to follow a ketogenic diet, which a lot of people do, guys, some people live their lives by this, consuming less than 50 grams of carbohydrates every day, and what that does, it allows the body to start changing from using carbohydrate as an energy source to using fat. Now, that can take up to a couple of weeks to do that. It's quite a difficult process to go through, but once you're in ketosis, the body uses the fat as an energy source. Now, that's great if you can live by that lifestyle, but a lot of people can't. It's really difficult for some people to do that, and that diet doesn't suit everyone. It's like we always say, we need to find what works for each individual person. Now, how do carbohydrates have an impact on fat loss? So, blood sugar is directly related to insulin. Insulin in the body is directly related to body fat and how much you store or how much you can lose. So what we can do is manipulate the amount of blood sugar and therefore manipulate the amount of insulin in the body, which has a direct impact on body fat. So getting the balance right, we can in effect promote effective fat loss. What I'd have you consider is this, guys: not all carbs are created equal. There are some good carbohydrates and there's some that I would avoid like the plague. So good carbohydrates are things like vegetables, fruit, legumes, nuts, seeds, whole grains, anything that's natural, that contains the natural fibre and hasn't had that fibre stripped away, because that plays an important role in absorption of carbohydrates in the body as well. Bad carbohydrates, anything that's refined or processed food like white bread, pastries, things like that, I would avoid those, guys. Sugary drinks, sweets, they're all packed with those simple sugars that will make the insulin levels in your body spike when the blood sugar spikes too. avoid these foods, guys, if you're looking for fat loss. So there you have it, guys. To summarize, don't be afraid of carbohydrates. We need them for energy. Use them in the right way. All of the nutrition that we provide to you has good sources of carbohydrates that are going to benefit you and keep you balanced in terms of nutrition. Okay, guys? So don't be scared of them. Eat your carbs, just eat them in the right amount and the right type of carbohydrates. Cheers, guys. Comment in the box below if you've got any questions.